I am excited. I've got a special familiar face to me if you're watching this on YouTube or something. You are a sight for sore eyes. Bob, I heard a rumor that you retired to your beach house. You finally are spending all that Bob Furniss money. Is this true that you're on a beach somewhere and you hung it up?
Yeah, I've been in the customer service industry for my whole life, so I made a lot of money because we pay our customer
I've been
service folks
I've been to your house.
you know,
I've been to your house. I've been to
the
the
tip.
Bob Furniss mansion.
Yeah, okay. We'll just let that one go by. No, there's not a beach house, but I guess I am retired. If you ask my wife, I'm retired. If you ask me, I'm semi-retired. I don't know that consultants ever retire, man. We just
No,
we
they do
just go
not.
to smaller projects, right? So
I don't know a retired consultant.
I got a couple of irons in the fire. I may announce some stuff in the next couple of months,
Awesome.
redoing bobfurnace.com, and I don't know what'll happen, but it's been weird to stop being in the Zoom world and in the Teams world and in the online all day long, and you know 8 and 10 calls a day. It's been different, but I've been busy,
Good.
and I wrote a very very vulnerable post on LinkedIn about my decision to leave corporate America. If the listeners want more details, they can go to my LinkedIn, Bob Furniss, and read it about what's going on in my world. But and if you go there, of course, please connect with me because I'd love to find some new connections. Um, and but yeah, I'm retired. But enough about me. What have you been doing, man?
I've been sitting at home doing nothing. No, as you
Yeah,
know, I
dude, I I know you're like a little bit of James Brown in your world. You're the busiest man in show business, dude. I know how much is on your
oh,
plate.
oh my gosh. Well, unlike you, I don't have Bob Furniss cash. I am a working stiff.
I understand.
Zoom calls from morning to night. But also as you know, I'm very passionate about this profession you and I have spent our lives in customer service, customer experience, contact centers, and all that. So, been doing more evangelism there. Um, Started a new show. You may have heard and seen it. I don't know if you saw that. I
Yeah,
figured you were
I have.
retired,
I
so
have. I thought, well, we went on hiatus, and you still had something to say, so you just started another show. But that's fantastic, and I've been listening in, and good stuff. Anxious to jump into it with you on our show. I
yeah,
also saw a segment on NBC, and that is the NBC
yeah.
on the big three, where you were the the expert on the future of digital experience. So you did a great job, man.
Thank you,
I
thank
know
you.
that. I know that they have the ability to make you look good, and if you talk long enough, they can make you look bad. So I was really happy for you that they made you look really smart,
Woo!
and,
Yeah.
and they used your bullet points, dude. You did a good job, seriously.
Thank you. That was really cool. That was a dream come true. Now, there has been some side effects. I'm getting texts and outreaches from members of my family, back east, asking me for money. They say I'm rich now that I'm on TV. I want to say publicly that those things are not true. I was not paid to be on TV. But it was very cool getting to share that around. Before we dive in, I really want to catch up with you, and I'm sure we're going to talk about the contacts in the show. You know, I talk to you frequently, and you seem in some days busier than me, and you don't have a job. So, as someone who is hoping to retire like you one day, how the hell does that work? How come you are busier now than you were when you had a job?
My uncle told me when I retired. My uncle retired from the Air Force and has been retired now for 20 years. And he said, Bob, when you retire, you're going to find out that you're busier than you were before you retired. And I went, I've been in the Salesforce sales world for the last 10 years. That's not possible, but it may be possible. I really do seem to be really busy.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of, all those things that you used to put on a list somewhere, and you sort of had a list of 30 or 40, and you got one a weekend or two a weekend done, or maybe one during the week. And that list seems to have grown beyond reality. And I take 3 off. I'm now taking 3 off a day, but I put 3 more on. So there's a lot of that. And you know that since 2020, we have had a nonprofit centered
Yes.
around breast cancer. And I have had the opportunity to be much more involved with that. So that takes up a fair amount of time of thinking about and trying to understand what are we going to do with that, and how are we going to grow that, and what is the future of that opportunity going to be. It has been really successful. And then I probably have a pretty bad case of ADD, dude.
Well,
I counted up while ago. My wife sat down at the computer that I have downstairs, and she said, "Your computer makes me nervous." And I said,
yeah, I remember that.
I had 83 tabs open on my laptop, on my
Holy.
on my Apple. So um, yeah, I probably create a lot of ADD work that, I read an email and think about something, and all of a sudden I'm looking at monkeys in Brazil. But I am busy, and it's a good thing when
Yeah,
when you're uh, when you retire. You want to stay busy.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Tell me about some of your success, man. I know we talked about that you're leading a team
Yeah.
and deep into some projects, and um, I know you had a crazy good. I watched the video the other day
Oh, good.
from generative AI at Dreamforce. So tell me a little bit about some of your successes recently.
Look, I mean, we did a show about Gen AI. I don't know, in the winter. I was wearing winter coats when this thing came in. I had multiple conversations. In fact, one of
Yeah,
our
we did two pretty pointed
yeah,
conversations
it,
about it right when it first got announced. We made some bold predictions that may or may not have come true. They probably didn't age well, but we went back and corrected some of those. And
yeah,
probably today, the numbers that I'm seeing about the losses in jobs and the impact on so many industries, it really is mind-boggling, the expectation of this.
it is. I think the thing I am, most proud of on this topic is, I I've been on the side of let's see this thing in real life. And, the video you're referring to was, I think, a panel session that I led around this topic. And
Yep.
what is cool is, you know, we were not talking about possibilities. We were talking about what was already here. Uh,
Stop right
uh,
there for a second. Let me shut my door. Start back up. Sorry.
we were talking about what was already here. And so when I think about the possibilities from that aspect, that some of the predictions we did make, and one that you made in particular, is coming true a lot faster than I thought. When you said knowledge will be the epicenter of it, not to nerd out too much on this show because I really I've missed you. Want to catch up and talk about what we have planned here in the fall, but it's just been cool to me to be able to talk about something in a futurist standpoint, and then stand on stage and show it. And then stand on stage and show it in a real way. That was powerful. So Dreamforce was just nuts.
Well, Dreamforce is always nuts. What did you get out of it that you didn't expect, or what's
I,
something that you learned that you wish that you could follow up on, or you had time to go be a part of other than AI?
Listen, the human beings I reconnected with, we've been in this ecosystem for a while, and just I haven't been to Dreamforce since COVID, and so the opportunity to see that and see all of those people was immense, and it started to feel like the old Dreamforce. Those who have been there post COVID
Yeah,
said it was a little bit weird, and this
yeah.
time it felt real, and I continue to just be amazed how much Salesforce continues to dominate that
Yeah, I
marketplace. But
had I had FOMO so bad, man, after
I
going to Dreamforce for 10 or 11 years in a row,
yeah,
and being a part of that, that almost a cult kind of experience that you
not
experience
not
at
not
Dreamforce.
almost. I've got my tattoo right here.
Yeah, yeah.
um, let's switch gears to now you are a civilian, as I call it. You're just a run of the mill consumer. You're not one of these people helping make service better. Tell me some of the best and worst service experiences you've encountered.
I think for me, when somebody asks me for a good experience, it either is someone in the moment working in a process and in a way that logically made sense to me, because it's easy for us who are in customer service. I think we start out as being really good customers because
Right,
we've been on the other side of it. But
right.
at least for me, I can become a till of the customer pretty quickly if you start quoting policies and processes and don't think about me as a human being. But let's start with the positive. Consistency is also really important to me.
Mm,
And one of the most consistent experiences, probably 10 years ago now, I opened up an account with Ally Bank, which is an online bank. If you don't know
yeah.
about it, they have some of the best interest rates in the industry for savings and for loans, and they have a checking environment. And the consistency of their digital experience. So if I want to be digital today, if I don't want to talk to anyone, I can do just about anything
Mm,
without it. But the part that to me sets them apart is that when I call the 800 number and I do reach a contact center, that it very much feels like to me that the person is sitting beside me
mm,
and is seeing what I'm seeing on the screen and is able to help me through whatever my particular issue is. So the consistency of them make them a company that I rely on. And then secondarily, I just realized that I had bought my fifth uh, kitchen appliance over the last, I don't know, 7 to 8 years at Best Buy.
right.
And do you remember when Circuit City went out of business? There was a lot of articles about the demise of Best Buy, and
Yep.
that that retail was dead, and that
Yes.
retailers like Best Buy, Circuit City had gone out of business. There'd been a couple of other big ones, and that it was over. And what I find is somebody at Best Buy figured out that I do want to go in and turn the knobs and open the
Yeah.
door and see the refrigerator, but I'm comfortable with then going back home and doing my research online and buying online. And so they've made that seamless for me as a consumer. But then if I step back into the people side again, the guy who shows up to install my new refrigerator, or my, in this case, a new dishwasher, he has been trained well. He has been incentivized by, he wants to make sure that I know how to use the appliance. And he'll even mention, you're going to get a questionnaire. And if you're not totally committed to giving me a high score, then tell me now and let me spend some more time with you. So, we talk a lot in the call centers world that we've lived in most of our career about incentives and recognition. And I don't know that we want somebody saying, hey, if you're going to give me a bad score, I'm not going to get off the phone. But there's a reality that they've incentivized their people to
care about it,
to care about the things that matter to the consumer. So does that make sense?
It does. I mean, yeah, maybe the, begging me for a score is not the deal, but at the end of the day, at least I'd rather deal with someone who gives a, right? That it's important to them. So
yeah,
I think it's a step in the right direction.
What's your best? What's your good experience?
So I've got an old car that I hardly ever drive, but you get the warranty fin, and like so they've harassed me for years that I've got to change the airbags or I'm going to die in a car that I don't drive. But it's calls, texts, I wanted the damn thing to stop. So I called the Audi dealership, and the best part of the experience was I'm like, this dealership is like 15 miles, and I took the car in, and they gave me, there was a lounge with food. I'm easy to please, food and drinks. They gave me a ride back home. And then when it was time, they picked me up, and I get back, and there's ice water in there, and I wasn't paying for this recall of this airbag thing. I couldn't tell the difference what my car was from before and after. They may have just taken it around the block, but I was none the wiser. I signed and I left, and it was so smooth. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to be using you guys from now on. Then I asked them how much an oil change was. It was almost $200. And I said, you know what? I'm going to stick with my deal. But if I ever have another recall, you guys will be the first thing I call. I'm excited we are talking about this, because this segues to the second reason I brought you here. Was one, to catch up, but I want to talk about our show. I am so, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who do not know, Bob and I co-host the most popular show on the contact center. It's called the Contact Center Show. It's been around for many years, lots of subscribers. Go check out our old stuff if you care anything about call centers or contact centers. But we're going to break some news here, Bob. We have our next season, so we're in the off season now. Our next season is going to be a little bit different, and I want you to tell folks about it. The thing I am most excited about is unleashing a retired Bob on the world. So if you've watched the show or listened to the show, you've got a pretty fun Bob. But Bob, had a job, had clients he cared about, so he was pretty. But I cannot imagine, because I know the day I hang this up, guys, I've been giving you the truth straight up, but I cannot imagine me not having to ever have a client again. Woo! The takes you're going to hear from me will change. So I'm excited about an unrestricted Bob. Bob, what else are you excited about?
It was a couple of months in there where, if I remember correctly, you deemed yourself to be the anti-consultant, correct? like you wrote a couple of articles that sort of said consultants are not worthy of.
I do remember that.
And then I tried to tell you, you are a consultant, whether you know it or not. You can be the non-consultant, but you're a consultant, and I think it will loosen me up a little bit. to be able to talk at a different level. But what I'm excited about, what we're talking about, is if you're a photographer, is to open the aperture. So photography is made up of three things or four things. It's made up of what's in my viewfinder, and how do I set up this picture to tell the story that I'm trying to tell. Then you've got shutter speed, and that's how fast the shutter is going to open and close, indicating how much light it will take in, but it quickly opens and closes. And so if I leave it open a long time, things will move and it will blur the picture. And I think sometimes in service, we leave the shutter open too long, and our processes blur what happens to the customer. It gets blurry for the customer. We just want sharp, crisp answers. And then thirdly is the ISO, and that one's a little bit harder to explain, but ISO is how light is being managed by the camera. But the fourth one is the one that matters for us. It's the aperture, and it's in a circle in your camera, and if your aperture is open, it's wider. It's taking in more light. It's allowing for light to be brighter. And so what I want us to do is to open the aperture, which will allow us to talk about service through the bigger aperture of consumerism and of the world, and the latest things that we're seeing in the industry of companies, and how service matters to them. So we'll occasionally chase a rabbit. We both love contact centers, so I envision that we close the aperture and chase a rabbit about how to do quality management a little bit better. But I think what we plan to do is to open that aperture and talk about quality in a retail environment, talk about quality in a to-go environment, talk about quality in a company experience, and how the experience overall at Best Buy made me talk about them giving me the best experience. It was not just the person that helped me in the store. It was not just the inventory. It was the bigger picture. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, Bob, the other thing that we're going to do this next season that excites me is we're going to do some debate formats, because as much as I like Bob a lot, he's often pretty wrong about many many a topic. And so this season we're not going to let it go. He has some fanciful ideas about average handle time. So Bob, are you ready? Are you ready for this of me weekly just reminding you how wrong you can be on certain topics?
Well, if you're of a certain age and you remember Chevy Chase and Jane Curtin on Saturday Night Live in the 70s.
We have lost 90% of the audience, but go ahead.
I realize that, but go look it up on Google. I can't use the
Skip
you would not
Bayless.
be allowed to use the word today, but I'm going to take the gloves off, dude. You're wrong about average handle time. Average handle, tell an agent that average handle time is 20 seconds, 20.5 seconds. And that they need to do better with their handle time is like you telling an agent to be rude to a customer.
Oh, okay. Well, this is white collar elitism at play. We have people today listening to this show who work at fast food restaurants. And you know what they have in those fast food restaurants? There's a clock that's telling you how long it's taking people to run through the drive-thru. But because those people don't have a good PR agent like Bob Furniss, no one cares that they have their own version of average handle time. And let me also remind you, sir, that this service business cost money. Of course, I'm going to tell you to reduce your average handle time because every second you are costing us money. I
Well,
digress.
Jane, I'm glad that you brought that up because I'm sure that we all have had really, really fast experiences at fast food restaurants over the last year and a half. So obviously, what they're doing, putting a clock up, is absolutely making the experience better. So that you did good. You did good. You did good. That was a great example of not using a clock. So,
I will let that go for now, but I will have a rebuttal when we have this debate. But this is what is to come this season because I want to correct the record. Bob has gotten soft on what running a contact
man,
center
I've
back
got
in the
some get off my lawn issues going on as I get older. I,
well, on this topic, you've gotten soft. You're like, take as much time as you want. I don't think that's how you run a modern contact center. So
all right, all right.
let's loosen it up. I want folks on this show to get to know you. This is a question I ask a lot of my guests. What was a purchase under $50 that you would say was life changing? I know that's hyperbolic, but what was one?
Life changing is probably a little bit of a stretch, but definitely an impact. So you may I think I use my creative side of my brain by being a photographer.
Yep.
And I take a lot of concert photography, and concerts tend to be at night. And so if you're wanting to take a photo at night, you can't use flash for the band, but you can use flash in to the crowd. And what was happening is I was getting a lot of just whiteout, just washout of the flash. And someone told me about this little device that pops on the front of my flash, and I had heard about it, but I was like, well, that's stupid. That doesn't make any sense. I bought it. It was $25. I can't imagine ever putting a flash on a camera again without this little $25 device.
Wow.
So in a strange way, in a place that I have a lot of passion for, that little device has made a difference. So let me flip it around because I'm anxious to hear what you say. What did you find that was?
Mine wasn't that recent, but it's a neti pot, and if you have allergies, and you probably know about this, if not, let me tell you what a neti pot is. So it's like under 20 bucks. It's like a teapot, plastic. Then you put water and saline water in it, and there's a beautiful model, this lady on the box, the one I buy, and she's elegantly just pouring it in one nostril. It's just flowing through the. When I do it, I'm waterboarding myself. I am pouring this thing. I'm drowning on my own sink. but when my allergies get bad, it's not the expensive medicine. It's this. I waterboard myself for a couple of minutes over my sink, and I get instant relief. Like that little device is worth.
So,
I would pay $100 for it.
So I just heard a commercial the other day and looked it up. By the way,
Right.
There's now an electric version of that.
Oh,
called Navage, and you put it under both nostrils, and it switches back and forth and pulls water in and out of. It sounds absolutely disgusting and painful, but since you brought it up, you may have to find the electric version.
I might. As long as it's under $50, I will report back. I'll report back to the show. We're coming to the end. So Bob, I want to close this out. What advice do you have for anyone retiring, thinking about retiring, or taking a sabbatical since you're living it now? What have you learned? I know it's been a few months, but what have you learned?
I think I can't imagine a Moss, after the initial couple of months of feeling a little bit lost I, I I feel like that I needed to have a purpose,
Mm,
and the nonprofit has given me a purpose. The nonprofit has given me a purpose to work a little bit, to think from a business strategy perspective, to be a consultant, to think about things through the eyes of the donor. So it is having a purpose. And so whether you're going to retire and find your purpose,
mm,
right? You're going to retire and then begin to do something, or whether you're in your 50s or 60s and you have latched on to a nonprofit or latched on to something that you're passionate about. I can't imagine that if I wasn't passionate about the purpose that I've taken on in my life, that I would be even more lost than I am sometimes.
that's awesome. And it's Keisha Warrior Princess .org. We'll put that in the show notes. That's the nonprofit Bob and his wife runs in memory of their lovely daughter. I've been excited for you, and we've talked privately about how you focusing on that, doing good in the world. You've made billions of dollars or lots of money for organizations and for yourself, hence the beach house. You contributing to the world, I think, is a good thing.
Well, and I'm so proud that I get to use the work that I did to
Mm,
make a difference.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I haven't looked at the number of how many followers or how many connections I have on LinkedIn, but I was looking at a post that I posted this week on LinkedIn about the question every dad should ask his daughter. And it shows 13,600
wow,
impressions
wow,
in less than a week. So
that's awesome.
it's also wonderful to have built up a following that
Right,
now I can use for good, in addition to the good we hopefully did as consultants working with company.
that's awesome. We usually leave things on a quote, tip, something you learned or watched that made you laugh this week. I'll kick us off and I'll turn it to you. Um, there's a practice. I don't know where I got this from, but I like to write. I journal every day, and it tells you to go read your journals way back. So, like, you go read your journals from 5 years ago, and it helps you understand yourself. But there's a quote, and I wish I could attribute it. I can't. It's not mine. That says that reading is how we understand the world, and writing is how we understand ourselves. And I think it is so true that when you write, and whether it's journal or any kind of writing, it's how you are interpreting your view of the world. So my whole thing is, gosh, if you have a writing habit of any, however little or large it is, it really does help you understand yourself. What about you, Bob? Any quotes, books, stories you want to leave folks with?
About I saw an interview with Matthew McConaughey, and back when he put out Greenlight, and I bought it, and I haven't read it since I bought it, probably a couple of years ago now. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and such a great book. You can hear McConaughey's voice in your head when you read
Yeah.
it.
All
It's that
right, all
kind of
right, all right.
exactly. And there's a great story about that, which we don't have time for me to tell. But my quote from the book was, especially in light of sort of where I am in life, he said, rather than struggle against time and waste it, let's dance with time and redeem it. Because we don't live longer when we try not to die. We live longer when we're too busy living.
Mm, mm.
And it reminded me that I need to live to the fullest. I don't know how much time I have left. Hopefully, it's a long time. 75 is a lot younger than it used to be. And I plan to get there and beyond. So, but
Aw-
that was McConaughey's quote from one of his chapters.
Awesome. My next door neighbor, Pat, turned 90 yesterday. We went there and eat cake.
That's
So,
great.
so that was cool. And her quote was, "I'm too damn young to be 90 years old." So we'll leave it there. Bob, it was awesome seeing you. For those of you watching and listening, the new season of the Contact Center Show launches the first week of November.
So excited about this, man. So excited to be
it's
back on.
gonna be a great show. I want you guys to get ready to watch me annihilate Bob every week. The gloves are coming off. It's gonna be a fun time. Please subscribe wherever you get your show. Bob, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Amos. I appreciate it.
You've been listening to an Amos Talks production.